Being a star in the NBA isn't an easy task. And here's what I mean. Every year in America, there's about 500,000 high school players. Then, out of that pool, only about 25,000 of them go on to play college basketball. From there, if they're exceptional enough, they get a shot at being selected as one of the 60 NBA draftees each year. That's not even including the recent surge of international players who are also competing for a spot in the league. But anyway, after they enter the league, it's not over yet either. With only 450 spots across 30 teams in the NBA, every year, every player has to be careful that their spot doesn't get taken by the next wave of young hoopers who are fighting tooth and nail to get in. For example, taking a look at the last 10 picks of the 2020 NBA draft, 6 of them aren't even in the league anymore. Getting into the NBA is difficult, and staying in it is arguably just as difficult. And then there's that next level. You see, out of the 450-ish players in the league, only 24 of them, or 5.3% of them, get selected as an all-star, and that's where we find ourselves today. There are 4 stars currently in the league who beat out the competition time and time again to reach heights that are only reserved for the cream of the crop. But for one reason or another, as of this moment, they're in serious trouble of losing it all. Today, let's dive right in to see who these stars are, what their predicaments are, and how they can get out of this dangerous territory. I'm going to start this one off with the one and only Ben Simmons. Because of a combination of athleticism and size, the 2016 #1 pick was once hyped to be the next LeBron James. When he began playing in the league, he actually sort of lived up to the hype. Rookie of the Year in his first year, All-Star in his second, and All-NBA in his third. The man was not only a walking triple-double, but he was slowly becoming a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate as well. Everything was trending in the right direction for Ben, until one botched dunk attempt during a Game 7 clutch moment, and then from there, the nightmare started. People started pointing fingers at him, people started talking behind his back, and ever since that time, Ben has never been the same. First, he just didn't want to play. Then it turned into mental health issues, then it was back issues, and then it was more back issues. 42 games out of 164, or 26% of games is what Ben Simmons played in over the past 2 years, and that figure drops even more if we include playoff games. Going forward, Ben won't have the luxury of his former star status. 2024 is a make or break year for him, and if he keeps repeating what he's done, he could quite possibly be out of the league. I mean, what team in the NBA is going to want someone who's used every excuse under the sun to not play? Anyway, the solution for Ben at this point to put this all behind him is to just get out onto the court and start playing basketball at an elite level again. But the million-dollar question is, will he? Sure, he's been putting up social media pictures of him preparing for revenge season, but the same thing happened last season and the seasons before that. Then on top of that, if there was any year for him to really come out, dominate, and prove his worth, it would have been when KD and Kyrie were also on the roster. Only time will tell what'll happen with Simmons, but he could tragically lose his NBA spot if the shenanigans don't stop. And unfortunately, the same is true of Zion Williamson. You know, when Zion plays, he's arguably a top 10 player in the league, and the numbers back that up. 26 points, 7 rebounds, and nearly 5 assists with a true shooting percentage of 65%? That efficiency number is within the realms of Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic, and the cherry on top is Zion's numbers don't have anything to do with stat padding either. Like, some players in the league put up amazing numbers while losing games, but not Zion. When this dude suits up and takes to the court, not only does he put up extraordinary stat lines, but his team wins as well. The key words in that sentence, however, is when this dude suits up. And therein lies the problem and why his career could be in jeopardy. You see, when we're just talking about games played, Zion is actually doing worse than Ben Simmons. Over the course of the last 2 regular seasons, Zion has only played in a total of 29 games, which is a measly 17.6% of the total possible games. Williamson was once hyped to be a generational prospect, and drafting him was like winning the lottery for the Pelicans. But at this point, he's become a liability. The front office for New Orleans can do everything they can to put themselves in a position to win, and they've actually done a good job. But let's be honest here, no team can go far without their superstar, and for New Orleans, that happens to be Zion. It's already been 4 consecutive seasons where injuries have stopped Zion's play, and if he doesn't get that under control now, his career could end terribly. His financials are fine though. I mean, he signed up until the end of 2028, but if injuries continue to plague him year after year, he might end up becoming one of the biggest busts in the history of the league. The solution for Zion currently is to make sure he gets all his off-court issues solved. And although he's recently been involved in a little drama, I'm mainly talking about his diet and nutrition. Zion needs to hire a nutritionist and seriously start taking care of his body. And then after that, everything should solve itself out. Whether or not he can do that, however, is a story in and of itself. Because if we're going to base his future on the past 4 years, the future doesn't look too bright for the former #1 pick. This next take might be a bit controversial, but Victor Wembanyama could potentially be in a lot of trouble. I know he hasn't played in a single NBA game yet, but man, based on all the hype he's been getting, and him getting an 84 right off the bat from NBA 2K24, he's pretty much a star already. And here's why his career could end terribly. It's actually not his fault, but honestly, the media has put so much hype on him that if he doesn't win at least 2 or 3 championships throughout his career, then his career is going to look terrible based on the expectations that were placed on him, which again, isn't any fault of his own. Then, to add on to that, he has statistics against him. What I mean is that players who are really tall often come across career-ending injuries. Yao Ming and Ralph Sampson are some examples of former #1 picks who, just like Wembanyama, were hyped to be the next big thing, and in actuality, they were really great players, but unfortunately, their bodies just couldn't stand the impact of playing day in and day out, and injuries ultimately derailed their careers. In today's NBA, Kristaps Porzingis would be the example to look towards, and though he played well last season, his career too is filled with injuries. I hope Victor could stay healthy, but the truth is, anything less than being a top 20 or top 30 all-time player would end terribly for someone who was touted to be the best prospect in NBA history. The next jump star on this list whose career could end quite terribly is Ja Morant. You know, at this point, Morant was well on his way to being the next big thing in the NBA. The next Derrick Rose, the next Russell Westbrook was what Ja Morant was becoming, as he put up daily highlight reels, tremendous numbers, and even brought the Grizzlies out of the shadows and into the light. But while that was happening, Ja started to veer off the path when it came to the off-the-court stuff. An incident with a security guard at a mall, an incident with the Pacers security staff, an incident with a kid in a pickup game, and 2 infamous Instagram live sessions have really taken Morant off that superstardom path. He was first suspended 8 games and then 25, and because of that, 2024 is really going to be a make or break year for him. If he doesn't play his cards right, and if he suffers another incident, then his career could quite possibly be in jeopardy. The solution for Morant at this point in time is to just delete social media off his phone and to change the people surrounding him. If he does those 2 things and focuses strictly on basketball, his career is going to be just fine. But judging all the incidents that just recently transpired and their frequency, I'm not too sure if Morant can put this all behind him, and if he doesn't, all signs point towards Adam Silver throwing the hammer down.